and process. Yeah, it's just initializing. Okay, so do you guys see my screen now? Can someone please confirm? Okay, great. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, great. Yeah. So I have come back to the Wikipedia page again, so I hope you guys can see it. Okay. Yeah. So let's begin with where we had stopped the last session. We had stopped with the CSS locator, and I had asked 3 questions, out of which first question I'm going to discuss today, not remaining 2. One question was about how you can get to reach the child in the CSS locator. So if you remember about the XPath, how we do this, do you guys see Wikipedia on my screen now? Okay, great. So let me just let me just bring control on couple of language terms which are available in wiki here, and you can see in HTML here down. Yeah, so if you see here, we have a label called search input, and then we have a couple of span here. So if we were to write this in XPath, we would have done like this, $X, and then double slash, and then we will say label, we'll say @for, which is an attribute here, and then the value of the attribute, which is search input in this case. Okay, so if you see this, it returns the label here. So now if we want to receive all the span, which are nothing but the language element within this, how do we do this? We'll just mark another slash, single slash here, because if you see the span is a direct child of label here. If it were not direct child, then we would have used double slash. So single slash here, and then say span. Yeah, so do you guys see that it returns us all the span here? All span elements which are under the label for search input. Is it visible? Okay, great. Okay, now consider you want to see only first span. Yeah, so first span, if you see, it has search, right? So if you want to return first span with the XPath, what you will do is you will just write 1 here. It's kind of array implementation. So if you say span first, it will get the first span. Yeah, so if you see here, we have got the first span here. Yeah, hi Sandeep, we have just begun with the session. Yeah, now we want to write the same in the CSS selector. So how do we do that? Let me just clear it. In case of let me just clear it. Yeah, in case of CSS selector, we use $, if you remember from the previous discussion, and then we have no slash here. We directly use the tag name, which is labeled here. There is no @ symbol, but we have for equal to search input. Okay, so it returns the label. Now if we want to get the child element, how do we do this in case of CSS locator? Now as I said earlier, span is the direct child of all span, or the direct child of label. That is, there is nothing else between label and span. So what we can do, we can use one arrow and say span. Yeah, so you see all the span are returned here. Do you guys see that? Okay, great. Okay, I'll clear it now, and I'll show how we can return only first span here. Okay, Omkar is asking one question. Yeah, Omkar, you could use that as well. Yeah, that is right. I'm trying to demonstrate nth child and nth of type here, so I picked up this example. There are multiple ways to pick up the first term here, so you are right about that. Okay, so we see how we can return all the span here. Now consider you want to return only first span. So the syntax for that is, after span, write colon nth hyphen child, and give first here. Okay, and this will return the first span element. Do you guys see that? Okay, great. You can also, instead of nth child, you can also use another function called nth of type. Yeah, it will also return the same thing, that is first span child. Now the difference between nth child and nth of type here is, nth child, when you say nth child first, it expects that first child should be span. So consider here, if we had first child as tr and second child as nth child would not have worked. But in case of nth of type, first it will look for first span child. So it could be anywhere in the hierarchy. It doesn't have to be at the first location itself. So is that clear? Okay, great. I'll just repeat it once again. When you are using nth child first, it means it would expect first child to be span. If first child is not span, this locator will not work. But when you are using nth of type, yeah, when you are using nth of type, in that case, it would look for element which is available anywhere in the hierarchy. So when you say nth of type 1, in this case, consider your first child element is tr, second is a span. Though here everything is a span, for time being, let's assume first child is tr and second child is span. In that case, span nth child 1 will not work because it would expect first child to be span. But if you write nth of type 1, it will work because it will pick up whichever first child is span. It will not take into consideration whether it appears in the first instance, second instance or third instance. It could be anywhere, but it should be first instance of that span. That's all. So largely, if you want your test to not, if you want your locators to not be very, brittle, largely you should use nth of type, not nth of child. Okay, is that clear? Can someone confirm or at least tell me if it is not clear? I'll repeat it once again. Okay, I'll repeat it once again. Let me clear everything. I'll write it once again. Okay, so I wrote nth child first. Okay, it means to say that for the label, I want to know the first child, and the first child should also be span. So if you see, guys, see there is two constraints here. I'm saying that I want span, and I also say that that should be the first child. Okay, so luckily here first child is span, and this locator works. So if I hit enter, it returns that. But if I use nth of type, it means that my constraint is a little less here. I mean to say that I want the span child, but the span child could be anywhere within the label element, so it doesn't have to be in the first location itself. So there is less restriction here. If you cannot understand this at this point, then I will ask you to remember to use nth of type more often than nth child. Okay? Okay, great. Okay, now there are a couple of shortcut locators with respect to CSS. We'll see that also. So if you see the Selenium software, okay, I've just typed here, it's an input element here. If you see it's ID search input, okay. So in case of CSS locator, you could write it as input, sorry, not at the rate of, just name of the attribute and the value of the attribute. So you could do this. Okay, or you could also use one shorthand element. You could just write hash. This is again a CSS locator, hash and the ID. It will return the same thing. Okay, so you could either use input ID, the value of the ID, or you could say hash the ID itself. So we'll get the same element. This is kind of shortcut in case of CSS selector. Mohit has a question here. Let's see that. Yeah, so Mohit, if you are not really, if you really don't want to keep a constraint over the location, then use nth of type. Yeah, you're right about that. If you want to keep a constraint over the location, then only use nth child. Okay? Or largely use nth of type, avoid using nth child. Okay, so let's come back to another locator here. We'll see the class element. How do we find class element? So we have an input with class search button. You have seen the regular expression, I'm not referring to regular expression, I'm referring to the regular way of writing expert here. So you write it as input, class, we do this. Okay, there is a shortcut to write this also. We can do it this way. We can just say dot search button, that's all. Yeah, it will return the same thing. Is that clear? So in case of ID and class, we can use hash and dot respectively. We really don't have to write such long expression. So I think that's fine for now. So let's move on to Selenium ID, which we are going to spend very less time for now. So as we all know that Selenium ID is a Firefox plugin. You can download it from Selenium headquarters site or Firefox add-on site itself. I have it downloaded already. I just moved on to Firefox browser of mine, so I'll open the Selenium ID in sidebar. Yeah, so this is Selenium ID. By default, its recorder button is on. So as soon as you start performing some operation on ID, they will be recorded. Uh, I'm not sure, Subhash. I think you can Google about it. I'm not sure about it. Okay. Okay. So this is Selenium ID. What I'm doing here is I'll just record a couple of operations. Yeah. I'll just refresh this page. Okay. Okay. So what I'm doing here is I'll just type Selenium software, and I expect ID to record it, and then I'll click the go button. Okay, some operations are recorded if you see my screen, but type was not recorded. There's one more question before that. Yeah, you can, Ganesh, you can get the, you can definitely get the count of similar named span node. You can, in case of XPath, you can mark them as 1, 2, 3, or in case of CSS, you can mark them as nth child and all. Okay, so let's come back to our example again. So yeah, I had typed in Selenium software, which was not recorded. So this is one of the reasons why I really don't support using Selenium ID. So let us insert that command manually and then see things. Yeah, so I'll insert that command here. I'll say type here. Yeah, and I'll just take its locator here. Yeah. Okay, and I'll type that here and the value here. Yeah, let us test our locator here. So there is one more feature in Selenium ID using which you can test locator the way we were doing it in Chrome. Just click the find button. So if you guys see, it highlights the Selenium software term here, and then we can execute it. Yeah, so if we execute it, it would load the Wikipedia page, and then it types the Selenium software, and then it clicks the go button, and yeah, the search results are retrieved. Yeah, so if you see, everything is green here. It's light green. I'm not sure if it is really visible to you guys. So we can record operations here in Selenium ID this way. So we can save these test cases. We can also create a test suite in which we can have all these test cases together. There is one feature which is used very often out of Selenium ID, even by those who do not use Selenium ID in test per se. They use formatting option here. So if you see here, you can convert these tests into different languages. You can convert them into JUnit WebDriver or TestNG WebDriver, or say Ruby if you are using Ruby or Python or something else. So I can just convert it in JUnit here. So if you see here, yeah, the same test has been converted into JUnit now. Yeah, don't worry about it if you don't get the syntax at this point. We are going to see the test cases in WebDriver section next itself. And then you can, but there is one thing, once you convert it in any other language, you cannot execute test. So if you want to execute test, you will have to convert it back into HTML. So if you see at this point, the table option is disabled. So I can convert it back into HTML here. Yeah, so if you see, the table option is enabled now. Yeah, now comes the question, why not Selenium ID? So there are multiple reasons of not using Selenium ID. First thing, as you saw, that we can execute test using only the default language, which is kind of HTML style here, in which Selenium ID records test. You cannot execute test in any other language at this point, at least. Though Selenium ID team working on having it executable in other languages as well. Another thing is Selenium ID test which we are writing in this language. It's really difficult to do the complex looping or writing maintainable test, or if you want to if your test is really complex or really big, it becomes kind of impossible to maintain those tests in Selenium ID. Then there's another thing, that code reusability is very less. So you have some common functions here. In that case, you cannot really reuse them if you're using Selenium ID. So on the site, say for example Wikipedia itself, if the search feature is common and you want to use it across, you cannot really reuse it here. And yeah, and another thing is it's a plugin only for Firefox. So until unless you are using Selenium RC, which is also known as Selenium 1, you cannot execute these tests in any other browser than Firefox itself. Okay. Raghavendra has a question here, WebDriver back Selenium. Yeah, Raghavendra will come to that later. We have not begun with the WebDriver at this point. So yeah, once we do that and then we see Selenium RC, then we'll see WebDriver back Selenium also. Okay, great. Okay, so this is a short introduction about Selenium IDE. I'm not going to get into more about Selenium IDE at this point. If you guys really want, then you can just record and replay some tests and see how it works. There's nothing more than this. So let us begin with the Selenium 2, which is also known as WebDriver. So I am going to use one Java IDE at this point, which is known as Eclipse. And yeah, we'll see writing test in that. Yeah, you can use Selenium IDE for XPath, so there's no problem with that. So let me just launch Eclipse here. I have downloaded it. Yeah, so this is Eclipse coming in. This is on Java IDE using which we will be writing test. I'll try to cover a bit of Java here also, but not in much detail, but I'll see how much I could do. So we'll create a new project here, which is going to be a Java project here. Is my screen visible to you guys? Okay, great. Yeah, so I'll create a new Java project. I will name it say session 2. Am I clearly audible? Someone is complaining about the voice. Okay, great. So I'm creating a project session 2. Okay, great. So if you see here, this is our project. So there's nothing more at this point. There's one package here, SRC, and I have Java 1.6, so it has taken that. Yeah. Okay. So before we begin and write our first test, there is one question about differences between WebDriver and Selenium. Great. So how I had described a little about this in first session as well. With the Selenium uses, or Selenium 1 in particular, uses the same concept when it comes to driving browser. It uses the JavaScript injection mechanism. So whether it is Firefox, whether it is IE, whether it is Chrome, it injects some JavaScript so that it could bring control on say text box when you're typing a text box, or radio button when you want to make a selection on radio button. But in case of WebDriver, it has its own mechanism for different browsers. For example, if you take example of Firefox driver, with Firefox driver, WebDriver works as a Firefox plugin because that's the best way it could control the browser itself, and it also emulates the real user interaction. So if you're injecting JavaScript and trying to control your browser, that's not really a good thing in terms of functional test automation. You should not be changing the state of application to test it. While in case of Selenium 1, it happens so. You are changing the state of application, which is not a good thing. So I was talking about the Firefox driver in which WebDriver works as a Firefox plugin. Okay. Are you guys facing problem with my voice? Am I not audible? When you say no, as in I'm not audible or I'm audible? Sometimes. How is it now? Is it okay now? Okay, or I'll try to be little slow. I think I go fast and then these problems arise. So I'll try to be little slow. Okay, I'll try to be little slow. Yeah, so I was talking about Firefox driver. So WebDriver has different mechanism to deal with every browser. In case of Firefox driver, it works as a Firefox plugin. In case of IE, which is Internet Explorer, it uses a DLL, which are dynamic link libraries, to bring control on the Internet Explorer. In case of Chrome, there is another binary which is used to bring control on the Chrome browser itself, which is maintained by the Chromium project, which is an open source project behind the Chrome browser of Google. We'll see that part also. So this is the major difference between Selenium 1 and Selenium 2, or the WebDriver. Selenium 1 uses JavaScript injection in each browser, while in case of Selenium 2, we have different mechanism to drive different browser. Yeah, even the Chrome. We'll see the Chrome part also while we write test for it. Okay. So is that clear, the difference between Selenium 1 and Selenium 2? Okay. So I had created a project here in Eclipse. I named it session 2. There is nothing more at this point. So we need to add one library here at this point, which is the Selenium server standalone jar. So you can download it from this URL. Download section, we have the Selenium server standalone jar. I already have it with me. Okay. Yeah. So I have already downloaded it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a package here. I'll create a library. I'll create a folder here with the name library, where I'll push this. Yeah, so see, I have created a folder here. I'll just copy the server jar. I have it here. Yeah, the standalone jar. I'll just copy and paste here. Once you do this, after this you need to right click and say add to build path, so that this jar would be available to your test and you can use it to write, to use the APIs of Selenium itself. So Subhash, can you repeat your question? I think I did not get that. Okay, so in case of Selenium 2, we just need one jar file. We need this jar file because we want to use the APIs which are supported by the Selenium or the Selenium 2 itself. That is, we want to be able to write in a text box or select a drop down value or make selection for a radio button. To use those APIs, we need this Selenium server standalone jar. That's all, nothing more than that. Okay, so we have this package SRC here. So let's create a new package. We'll write a small test at this point. I am going to name it com, and we'll create one more package within this. Yeah, so let me name this as Selenium. Yeah, so we have com.selenium package. This is usually a convention to be followed in case of Java packaging, that you have domain name and the company name, so that your classes are unique. And let's create a new class of. Am I audible now? Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm just creating a class called WebDriver test here. Have a look at my screen. Yeah. Okay. Okay, let's see how it goes. If it becomes really difficult, maybe I'll have to log in, log out, and log in again. But let's continue for time being. Okay. So this is a class. Yeah, Vishal, hang on a second. Let me complete one section and then we can take the question. Yeah, so this is WebDriver test class, and we will write a main method here. Yeah, so this is the syntax of main method. Main method is the method from where the execution begins in any Java program. So we have main method here, and now we will create a driver instance for us. We will write test in Firefox driver here. So let us create an object of that. Yeah, so this. Yeah, so do you guys see that I have created one instance of Firefox driver here? I have assigned it to WebDriver and not the Firefox driver kind of object. Okay, now let us launch the URL. So we can do that using driver instance which we have created. So how do we do that? So see, if you write driver here and then say dot, it will give all the methods which are available here. So we are going to use the method called get, which is to launch the browser. Get here. So we will take the previous example here. Let's go back to wiki. I'll copy this URL. Yeah. Okay, so this is to launch the browser. Okay, now we will type our search term here. So how do we do that? We have already taken all the element locators, so we will use ID here. Again, I'll type driver dot. So how do we find element here? We say driver dot find element. So you guys see that find element method is there. So there are two find element and find elements. At this point, we are using find element. It takes argument of type object by. So we'll say by dot. Okay, so see, there are different ways to locate element. We had seen CSS selector, ID, name, tag name, XPath. So we are going to use ID here. So I'll select ID, and then I copied ID from here, the search input, and then we will write what should be sent to that text box. So for that method is send keys. Yeah, so I'll just type Selenium software here. Okay, great. Okay, now we also want to click on the go button. Okay, looks like it was not very clear, so I'll repeat my last line again. So what we have done in last line is we are sending Selenium software text to the search text box. How do we do that? We are using the driver instance here, which we created in the first line. On this driver instance, we can call the method called find element. In the find element, we can find element in different ways. The mechanism which we are using here is ID. Okay, and after that we are using a method called send keys, using which we are trying to type Selenium software here. Okay, Tulsi, we'll get to the question part after a little while once we do this. Okay, now we will click on the go button. So let us see the element for go button. Yeah, so its name is go. So we'll use the name element to, name method to find out the element here. So the same way we'll say driver dot find element, no difference, by dot name. So we are using name here. I'll just paste the name here. So this is the name dot. So we can invoke the click method here because we want to click on it. Okay. After having clicked on it, if we see how it actually works here is, yeah. So when I click on the go button, yeah, so it returns a couple of results here. So first of them is the Selenium software. Let us analyze this element here, and then we could replicate same in the test. Yeah. So if you guys see here, there is a search result UL element, right? Do you guys see that? I have just brought control on that. It highlights this in the browser. Its class is mw-search-results. Is it visible? Okay, am I audible? Okay, great. Okay, so what we are trying to do here is, after having gotten the search result, we'll try to click on the Selenium software. If you see, there are many links returned. Water is there, Robotium is there, but we'll try to click on the first link. Okay, so no, I will not use JavaScript. I will again use the click itself. So let us just try to write our element locator here. So here we will see an example of our previous element locators which we have done so far. So $$.w in quotation. Okay, so this element comes here. Now let us try to bring control to the first link. How do we do that? So if you see here, there are lots of li, that is every search element is one li element, okay, and within li we have div, and the first div is actually the one which contains the element. So let us do this. Let us bring control on li now. Yeah, so if I just say li like this, all li come in. Okay, and then we want to bring control on only first li. So you guys remember we just spoke about nth of type, right? So I'm using nth of type 1. So see, only first li comes in here, isn't it? Okay, now we want to bring control on the anchor. So what we can do is, now if you see the anchor, it's not the direct child of li, so we cannot use it using arrow, which we discussed earlier. We cannot do this. So what we would have to do is, since it is inside li you have div and then you have anchor, so it is a second level child. So give some space and then type anchor. Yeah, here comes the link. Do you guys see that? So we can bring control like this on the first anchor element. So this is the CSS selector. Now we will use this CSS selector in our test. Okay, many of you have been complaining about the voice. I think I am going really fast. Yeah, so we use space in the case when element is not the direct child. So if you see anchor element here, it is not direct child of li. Do you guys see that? Anchor is not the direct child of li. Yeah, so since it is not direct child of li, then we'll have to use space. See, div is the direct child of li. You can directly use div after li. You can give li angular bracket div. but you cannot use it with anchor because it is not direct child. So you have to give space and then use anchor. Okay, is that clear? Okay, I think that's clear. So let me just copy this. Okay, so see what I have done here is yeah, we can use XPath as well, Gyanendra, there is no problem with that. But try to avoid XPath as much as possible because it is supposed to be slower. Until unless you have to navigate back to parent, let us try to not use XPath as much as possible. Okay, so this is a simple test. Yeah, so I can execute it now by executing this main method. How do I do this? I say run as Java application. Because it's the main method, I can begin execution from here itself. Let me repeat it once again what we have done. We have created Firefox driver here. We are getting the URL here. We are trying to we are trying to send the keys Selenium software in the search box. Then we click the go button here, and then we are clicking the first link which comes in the search results. Okay, so is that clear? Okay, let us try to execute this test now. Okay, it's asking me to save the resources. I'll say okay. So we will see Firefox coming up now. Yeah, so did you guys see that it invoked the Wikipedia and it searched for Selenium there, right? Okay. Okay, so see, it did not close the browser. So what we need to do for that is we need to say driver dot close. It will close the driver, and then driver dot quit. That's all. Okay. So yeah, so this is how we can close the driver. Hi Rishi, we have just begun with the WebDriver test. So we have written a simple test here to search in the Wikipedia. So I'll execute it once again, and it should close the browser this time. Okay. So Mohit, the close method is used to close the browser. So after having used the close method, if you are not going to execute any more driver.get, then you can quit the driver as well. So if you just use the close, it doesn't mean that your driver instance is lost. So if you are done with your test, you should as well quit the driver instance. Okay? Is that clear, Mohit? Yeah, but I don't think that will be a good practice. Okay, let's try to comment this and see what happens. Okay, I have just removed the Let me run it once again. Yeah, so search is happening now. Yeah. Okay, it clicked on the link. Yeah. So it closes the browser as well, but I would still suggest to use the driver.close and then driver.quit. Now if you see here, there is no real test happening here. We are just doing some operations here because a real test would make a check as well. So we can do that as well. So we can keep some assertion here. So when we come to the search result page, and when test clicks on Selenium software here, we will check the image here. There is one Selenium image available on the page in the Wikipedia. Yeah, so we can keep a check here for the image being there. So how do we do that? So before closing it, we'll keep a check here. We'll say there are a couple of assertion methods, so we'll use one of the assert method. Assert true, and then we have to give a boolean condition here. So we'll say driver dot find element. I'm again using the CSS selector here. So the logo, the image of Selenium in the Wikipedia page is one image tag with src. So I'll just write it here. We are pretty comfortable with writing locators now. So I'll say image src equal to the value here which I copied. Okay. Now it's not a boolean condition. It's just to find an element. So we have to use something called is displayed. Yeah. So we'll take that. Yeah, and the semicolon at last. Okay, so this is a check which we are keeping after the search result. So we can execute it once again. Okay, so Tulsi, what I have done is I kept a check over the search result page which we have. In fact, after the search result page, when we click on the first link, we have the Selenium page coming up, which is happening right now. So there is a Selenium logo there. So I just kept a check there. So if you see the third last line here, assert true, I have used the same notation here again, which is driver.findElement by CSS selector, and the Selenium image which is there in the Wikipedia page, and a method called is displayed. So if it is displayed, it will return true, otherwise false. Why we do these? So while writing the test, we will have a couple of checks. Usually we will say that some element should be there, or exactly. These are like checkpoints. We say that some value should be there, or if you're filling a form, you come back and say that whether the form has same value after you submitted it or not. So those kind of things. Am I audible to you guys? Okay, so I think few of you are facing problems, so I think it is at your end, because others are able to hear me clearly, and I'm trying to be slow also. Okay, so so let us see that what we have written so far, we cannot really use it in real test, because in real test you will have lots of methods, lots of tests. You cannot write everything in one main method. And this is where a framework comes in the scene. So what we are going to use here is the TestNG framework. So let us see how we can use that. So before being able to use TestNG framework, you will have to download it from TestNG site. So if you go to TestNG site in the download section, yeah, you have this link using which you can download it. It also has a plugin for Eclipse. So using this plugin in Eclipse, you can execute test in Eclipse. Yeah. So let me just copy the TestNG library at this point. I had downloaded it earlier. Yeah, this is TestNG library. I just copy it. I'll paste it in my library folder. So it comes here, and then I'll add it to the build path. Yeah, so it comes here. Okay, great. But before this, I would ask one question to you guys. If you notice the first line in this test, what I have done is I'm creating an instance of Firefox driver, but I'm assigning it to WebDriver. So doesn't it look odd? I should assign it to Firefox driver itself, is not it? How am I able to do this? I'm creating instance of Firefox driver, but I'm assigning it to WebDriver instance. Exactly. So is it clear to everyone that what is interface? How am I able to do this? Yeah. So see, I could have as well written it as Firefox driver. This will work perfectly. But in this case, it can drive only the Firefox driver, not other drivers. You cannot use it to drive the Chrome driver. We'll come to this later. Okay. Let me just make it WebDriver again. Yeah. So what I did was I added a TestNG library. Now TestNG gives you lots of flexibility in terms of writing tests. So you can write many small methods and you can mark them as test methods. So let us write some small test methods. Okay. So I'll create another class now. Yeah, so I'll name it as uh, test ng test. Yeah, yeah. So we'll write some small test here, mm, which does not do much. Say public void. Okay, we'll write one. We'll write two methods. Okay, print one and print two. So this is one method. Um, so it will print in print one. That's all. Nothing more. And then we'll write one more test method. Guys, I'll really appreciate if you go through the agenda of meeting before coming, because many of your questions are going out of the, what is supposed to be the schedule of meeting. I have no, I can definitely take the questions, but then we will deviate from what we are supposed to discuss. So let us take these questions which are outside the topic once we are finished this session, okay? Yeah, I'll take all of those questions later. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I'm writing another small method here. See what, I am not just typing entire system.out.println here. In Eclipse you have lots of shortcuts. So if you say s by so, control space, it types everything. So you can use that. Okay, so this method, what it does, it says in print2, that's all. So these are two methods. Now I want to mark them as test method. So in test.ng what you can do is, you can annotate it. Annotation gives a specific meaning about your test methods to compiler. It lets them know that these are the test methods. So how you can do this? Just say at the rate of test. So pick up the test.ng annotation. Yeah, and another test method also. Exactly. Now there are two ways to execute it. You can directly execute it from here itself as test.ng test, or there's a way to create one XML file which is known as test.ng XML file and then execute the test. Let me execute it from here itself. Yeah, so if you guys see the console, yeah, so do you see in console it has printed in print1? I have just highlighted it. Yeah, the same way you can execute in print2 method also. So here we mark two different methods as the test method. Now if you noticed, we have not written main method ourselves. Main method might be somewhere there in the test.ng framework itself. So test.ng is doing the things for us. In the same way, you can mark entire class as test. So when you do this, all the methods in the class become the test methods. So I have marked class as test. I'll just comment these annotations. And now I can execute this. Yeah. Yeah, so if you guys see on the console, it will print both. See, it prints in print1 and in print2 because we marked class as the test. So all the methods in the class become the test method. Yeah, it depends, Tulsi. So if you have a test method, you will mark it as test, otherwise not. So this is one annotation which we are going to use very often. Another annotation which we would use very often at this point is before annotation. So let me show you that also. So what I will do is, I will create another method here now. So I'll say public void before method. Okay, and I'll just print here as well. I'm not doing anything great here. I'll just say print before each test method. Print before each test method. Okay. Now we need to annotate it with a different annotation here. We will say here at before method. Okay. So this method will be executed before every test method. Now if I execute the class here, okay, let me bring the class annotation again. Yeah, so if I execute the class again, before every test method we should see the execution of before method. Okay, so if I execute the class again, run as test.ng test. Okay, so let's see the console, what is there. Okay, so you guys see, first it has printed print before each test method, then it printed in print1, then it has again printed print before each test method, and then in print2, right? Is that clear? Okay, okay, now we will use this mechanism in our test which we wrote. Okay, there was one question, let me just see that. Okay, there's no question for me. Okay, so let us use this mechanism in our previous uh, test now. So here comes our previous test where we had a main method. So let us try to make it little compact. I'll create another class at this point. Control N, class. I'll name it cell test case. No, we don't need JUnit while using TestNG. They are different frameworks. So yeah. So this is cell test case class. Okay, so in this cell test case class, we will do the initialization. By initialization, I mean the launching the browser and closing the browser. So let us write those methods here. Public void launch browser. Okay, and here we will launch the browser. So how do we do that? I'll just bring those instances here. Okay, so I have just declared the WebDriver. I have not instantiated it yet. I'll write here driver equal to new Firefox driver. Okay, and that's all, nothing more. And I'll write another method here. I'll say public void close browser. Manoj, it does not work the maximize part for me, so I'm trying to skip that at this point. And here we will close the driver, and then we will quit it. That's all. Now what do we want? We want that these methods should be executed before every test method and before after every test method. So before a test method is executed, we want browser to come up. So we will annotate this again. We'll say before method, yeah, and for the another one, we'll say after method. Exactly. Now what we are going to do is, we are going to go back to our test, which was WebDriver test, and we will extend the previous class, which is cell test case class. So let us do that. Okay. So do we understand what extends mean here? What am I doing here? Do we understand that? Okay, so what happens here, we are actually inheriting the property of cell test case class. So all the public method of cell test case class are available for WebDriver test class as well. So what happens here is, if you have a test method in WebDriver test, in that case, we are going to have before method being executed before every test method, and after method being executed after every test method. So let's see that. Let's change our test in the WebDriver test a little. We don't need main method anymore. Okay, so let us make it, let us give it a good name, say test Wikipedia. Okay, that's not a good name, but let's keep it for time being. We don't need to launch browser here, because browser will be launched in cell test case class. We don't even have to do the quit part here, because quit would be done in cell test case class. Okay, so this becomes our test class now. Okay, so this is our test class, which extends the cell test case class. Cell test case class launches the browser as well as closes the browser. Okay, and the WebDriver test class is going to do the other stuff which we saw earlier. Now how do we execute this test? See, we have not yet marked it as test class. So let us do that also. So it becomes our test method. Okay. Now we have seen how we can execute it directly using run as testng method, but we cannot do this when we have very large number of test methods. So in that case, we will prefer using one XML file wherein we could give all these test classes. So let us create one XML file now. So I'll come to the project, new, other, XML, yeah, XML. So I'll name it as testng XML, which is usual convention. You can use whatever name you wish to. Okay. So in this file, we will define the classes. How do we, use them? I already had created one such class file. I'll copy contents from there and then I'll explain it to you guys. Okay. Okay. So if you see here, in this XML file, we have couple of tags. First tag is the suite name, which is the name of the suite, which is name of your test suite. So we can give it name as say Wikipedia test. Verbose is for logging, so don't worry about this. We will see parallel part later, don't worry about it at this point. Okay, then comes your test. Okay, Nagaraju, you do not need client driver jar with if you are using standalone jar, so don't worry about it. You will usually just need the standalone jar. Don't worry about the client driver jars, especially in case of Java. If you are using C# and others, then you will have to use client driver. Yeah, Manoj, you can mark more than one method as before method, so don't worry about it. Yeah, so coming back to TestNG XML, we have the suite name, then we have the test name, and then within the test, what all classes to be considered. So we have classes tag, and then we have class tag. In this, we have to write all these class names, which are supposed to be your test methods. Okay, so our class name is WebDriver test. I'll just right click on this and copy the qualified name. Okay, and I'll paste it in the TestNG XML file. Okay, so that's all. This is a very simple TestNG XML file. Now to execute this as part of TestNG XML, we will use the Eclipse plugin of TestNG. I'll say run as. I'll use run configuration. So you guys see that I have TestNG here. I'll create one more instance here. I'll name it as session 2, which is our today's session. Let me browse the project here, which is session 2. You can give class, method, other things here, but we'll pick up the suite here. So yeah, this is our TestNG file. Say OK, apply, and after this you can run it. So let us run it. It will do the same thing, but the difference here is earlier we were using the main method, but here now we are using a framework. So we are trying to modularize it better. We are trying to take the browser invocation and browser closing part out of our test. So that all the tests which have to do the same thing, they don't have to invoke browser themselves. It could be taken to a common class, which is cell test case in our case. Okay, there are a couple of questions now. Okay, someone is asking me to show the run as again, so that's very simple. Say you can come to any of your class, say run as. Okay, you will have run configuration first. Okay, so if you have TestNG Eclipse plugin, which I referred earlier, if I did not, I'll explain it once again. In the download section, you have this documentation about how you can get the TestNG Eclipse plugin, the one which I highlighted. Yeah, you can use it to get the TestNG plugin. Yeah, and I have just opened that, and then I created a configuration here with the name session 2. I picked up our project, which is session 2, that's all. And then I selected the switch radio button here, and once I do that and browse, it will show the TestNG XML. Yeah, and then we can run it. Yeah, Vinod, you can use JUnit as well, but I prefer TestNG mainly because of two reasons. One, TestNG allows parallel execution of tests, which we'll see in a while. Second, TestNG allows execution of failed tests. So these two features are not there in JUnit, which is why I prefer the TestNG. Yeah, and built-in reports as well. Okay, so we can run it again, and then we'll see the report part as well. Okay, I'm just executing it once again. Yes, Vasant, I'll show the failed test execution as well little later on. Yeah, so our test is over. Okay, now I'll just close all of these there. Yeah, so if I refresh the project library at this point, you will see the test output folder. Have a look at my session 2 folder. I'll just refresh it. Okay, do you guys see test output has come up there? Yeah, so in this we have something called index.html. Yeah, so this is the test report here. So TestNG has generated this report. It says that I have one test, I have one method which is passed. There is a show link. So if you click on that, it shows our test method. So do you remember the name of the method is test Wikipedia? Let us go back and see once again. Yeah, so it is test Wikipedia, right? So it has appeared in the TestNG report. There's one more good feature in TestNG. You can pass message to your report. For example, I can log a message here. I can say reporter dot log. Okay, for typing I'll just say my test passed. So these messages are printed in your test report. I have not seen such mechanism in JUnit. Yeah, so Kalyan, if you are using Selenium standalone server jar, you don't have to add the Selenium Java jar as well. Standalone jar has all the APIs of Java jar as well. So don't worry about adding the Java jar, just use the standalone jar. Okay, so that was a question. Yeah, you can execute test without standalone jar as well, but then there are a couple of other jars you will have to download and add yourself. So if you want to just not worry about all those things, then just use the Selenium server standalone jar. That's all. Okay. Uh, yeah. So this was about the test using Firefox driver. Let us see a test using Chrome driver as well. So as I mentioned earlier, in case of Chrome driver, we will have to use another extra file which is known as Chrome binary. So you can download it from this location, Selenium. Yeah. Chrome driver download list. So depending on whether you're on Windows or Mac or Linux, you can take the corresponding file. I have already available it to me, so I'll use that. So I'll show the execution in Chrome driver also. Okay. So let us make some modifications in our cell test case class now. So if you see the cell test case class, we have Firefox driver at this point. So we will make it Chrome driver now. But while doing so, we also have to tell it the location of the Chrome binary, which you would have downloaded from this page. Okay. So let us do that. Let us set a system property here. As far as I know, there is no built-in mechanism for log, so there should be something extra which needs to be done. So I'll have a look at that. I'm not sure at this point. So yeah, let us see the Chrome driver execution. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to give it the location of the Chrome driver. So I'm setting a system property here. So say WebDriver dot Chrome dot driver. I have already downloaded the binary which is available here. So I'll just copy this. It comes here, okay, and then I'll change it to Chrome driver. Okay, great. So if you see, I have not changed anything else. It's just the driver instantiation part which I have changed from Firefox to Chrome here. I have set a system property which needs the location of the Chrome driver which I have downloaded. Vasant, yeah, that's what I was referring to. In case of if you want to use Chrome. No, we don't need to do it in case of Firefox. In case of using Chrome browser, you need a binary file which controls the driver. You cannot directly launch it as just Chrome driver. The binary file which you can download from this location, Chrome driver download list, this is something which controls your Chrome browser. So the mechanism of executing test in case of Chrome is little different than the Firefox. Okay. Yeah, we don't have to do it with Firefox. Okay, so there is some change in case of IE, but for now we will consider that IE is also the same. So there is some change, we'll see that change in future, not today. So in case of IE, you can just say Internet Explorer driver, nothing more than that. Yeah, there's some change, but let's not consider the IE driver at this point. Okay, so I have done this change now. My test is as it is. So I'll try to execute it once again. So since I have set up everything already, I can just click on this green symbol and I can say session 2. Which is the name which we gave to our test. So if you see, it has launched the Chrome driver now. Yeah, it is going to Wikipedia. It has searched. Search results are there. It has come to Selenium software page and everything is over. So we can refresh our test report. Yeah, so is the same test again? Yeah. Okay, great. Now let us see one of the biggest advantage when someone was asking why JUnit, why TestNG, why not JUnit, the parallel test. Let us see the parallel test here. So let us write two tests here. Okay, so we have one test here. I'll just copy it. I'll create another test. So I'll name it as Wiki execution in Firefox. Wiki in Firefox. Okay, and another one I'll name it as Wiki in Chrome. So if you have a look, classes are same, but the only thing is there are two tests. and I want these tests to be executed in two different browsers. Okay, so what I will do is I'll give a parameter here now. So I'll define a parameter here. I'll say parameter name browser. So this should be in quotation. Okay, value equal to ff. Okay, so this is one parameter. Okay, there's some error. Let me just try to correct it. Okay, and then we will define another parameter. Yeah, equal to was missing. Yeah, thanks Tulsi. And then we will define another parameter. So this is one parameter in one test and another parameter in another test. I'll just change it to Chrome. Okay, so what I am going to do now is I'll execute these tests in parallel. So parallel equal to methods, I'll make it parallel equal to test. Okay, and then I'll go back to my cell test case class and I'll use those parameters here. So I'll say parameters. Yeah, so it comes the test-ng parameters, and then we will use the same parameter name here what we gave here. So the name which we have given is the browser, so I'll just copy this name and keep it here. Okay, and then we will collect this parameter here. So I'll say string browser. Okay, so what it means is from the test.ng file we are passing the parameter as browser whose values are ff and chrome in case of two different tests, and these values now will be collected in this cell test case class. Is that clear? Okay, now we will do some if else here. So we will say if browser dot equals ignore case. So we have two values there, Firefox and Chrome, right? So we'll take both of them. Chrome, then do this. What should I do? I should create the driver of type Chrome here. Okay, else if browser dot I'll use equals ignore case ff, then we will launch the Firefox browser. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, so Julia is asking if these scripts will be available. So Julia, I'll do one thing, I'll upload these scripts on my site. So yeah, so that should help. I'll do that. Yeah, the session is going a little longer than 1 hour, so I'm sorry, I did not expect it to outrun the time. Okay, so what we have done here is we have got this parameter. We say that if browser dot equals ignore case Chrome, in that case launch the Chrome, otherwise launch the Firefox. Let me just see the notation here. So we have ff here and the Chrome here, and yeah, so this should be okay. Chrome and ff. Yeah, so I have marked test.ng XML that these tests should be run in parallel. Do you guys see that here? In the suite we say parallel equal to test, right? Okay, yeah, so Vasant, I was coming to that. So if you see in the suite we have parallel equal to test here. It means these two tests, first test and the second test, they would be executed in parallel, which means to say they would be executed together now. So one test is going to execute it in Firefox and another test is going to execute it in Chrome. If you see, the class is same, there is no difference in the class, it's only the browser which differs. So we have given this parameter here for browser. This is the parameter which we are collecting in the cell test case class, And here we see that if it is Chrome, then launch the Chrome browser. If it is Firefox, then launch the Firefox browser. That's all. Is that clear, Vasant? Okay, great. So let us try to execute it once again in the same way. Session 2. So here comes the Chrome. And here comes the Firefox. Have a look. There are two browsers at this point. In the background, there is Chrome. In the front ground, what do I say? In the front end, there is Firefox. So in the Chrome test is over. In the Firefox test is also over. Did you guys see that it was little quick? Should I execute it again? Yeah, I'll just run these tests here. Okay, I'll execute it once again. You guys would see execution in two browsers at this point now. They would be happening together, Chrome as well as Firefox. So I'll just say session 2 here. Have a look. See, the Chrome is there at this point, and see Firefox has also come up. So tests are happening in Chrome in the background, and on the front end we can see Firefox now. Yeah, so in the Chrome test is almost over, and in the Firefox also it's about to get over. So this is one more advantage of test engine comparison to JUnit, that you can run test in parallel. There is one more aspect of Selenium called Selenium Grid to run test in parallel. We have not seen that yet, but without Selenium Grid also we can run test in parallel in different browsers on one machine itself, even without using the Selenium Grid. I suppose, Vasant, you are referring to pom.xml. There is no pom.xml here. There's plain test.xml file and nothing more. Yeah, okay. So if we have a look at our test report at this point, let me just refresh it. Yeah, so let us see what is there in test report. Yeah, so if you see in the test report, we see there are, let me maximize it. There are two methods and both are marked as pass. If I say show, okay, so both methods are same because we were essentially executing the same test. It's only that we executed them in two different browsers. So I remember that TestNG also lets you see the browser part here. So we can, let me see if I could show that to you guys. Yeah, so if you see here, there are two tests. There's a link called to test and it is marked here. There is wiki in FF and wiki in Grow. So if you remember from TestNG XML file, these are the names which we had given to our test, wiki in FF and wiki in Grow. Is that clear? Okay, okay, okay. So I do not have IE. I mean, I cannot have IE on this machine. I'm running test on Ubuntu. But in case of IE, the only thing you need to do is like this. Say you can do it like this. I write one more condition here. Else driver equal to new Internet Explorer. Yeah, that's all. So if I execute this test at this point, it will fail because in Ubuntu you cannot have Internet Explorer. No, you don't have, you really don't need desired capabilities. They are needed in special situations. We will see them in upcoming sessions, not today. Sometimes it runs, sometimes it does not. Okay, okay, let us see Manoj question first. Yeah, Manoj, you can execute test in two Firefox in parallel. Say for example, I can just change this test.ng XML to refer to two FF instance instead of one Chrome. So it will run two Firefox and not just one Firefox. So you can do that. I did not use reporter.log. I don't recall. Did I use it? Okay, this was here. Yeah, I had used it, reporter.log. So this message must be printed somewhere in your test methods. Yeah, see the reporter output is there. Yeah, so if you click the reporter output link, you can see the test Wikipedia has printed my test passed. I mean, that was just a dummy message I had printed, and this is another one which got printed out of two browser execution. Okay. Yeah, so I was talking about the cell test case execution for the IE browser. So if I do it at this point, say for example, I just make these conditions fail. Okay, so I'll give them some value which is not referred in the cell test case class. So I've changed them to FF1 in Chrome 1, and in that case, none of the browser will match, and then it will try to execute test in Internet Explorer, so it will not work. If we can use parallel test using TestNG, why do we use Selenium Grid? Good question. So Manoj, we use use Selenium Grid, when we come to it, we'll see that you can execute test on different machines. You can direct that some of your tests should be executed on Mac Safari, some of your tests should be executed on Windows 7 Internet Explorer. So such kind of combination is really easy to achieve with the Selenium Grid than just TestNG. But if your requirement is not that, then TestNG will do good enough for you. Okay, so let me just execute this test wherein it will fail at this point. Let us see that. Yeah, so do you guys see the test has failed already? Yeah, so let us see the problem, what problem we have got here. Yeah, so if you see the exception message here, it says that you appear to be running Linux and IE driver is only for Windows. Yeah, so if you're running test on IE on Windows, there's not much difference. You can just say Internet Explorer driver, that's all. I cannot show that here as I said earlier. Yeah, so I'm free to take any questions if you guys have anything at this point. This was for today's session, so I'm done with that. What's the difference between driver.close, driver.quit? Okay, so driver.close is only going to close your browser. Okay, so if you have not used driver.quit, after using driver.close, you can again do driver.get. You can again launch the no, I think I'm wrong about that. After using driver.close, you cannot close the browser again. You have to instantiate it again. But driver.quit will close your driver instance itself. Driver.close does not kill your driver instance. Exactly, memory will be freed. Any other question? There were a couple of questions coming in middle. I was not able to focus on them. So why we should not use XPath to identify element? Okay, so Mohan, the problem with XPath is if you saw the first session, XPath can be used to navigate forward as well as backward. Because of this capability, XPath introduces lots of delays in identifying the elements. So the same element, if you identify using say just ID or using CSS locator, they are going to be fast. Because in case of CSS locator, they cannot be used to navigate back in the DOM, which is why it makes it fast. So yeah, that's the reason why XPath is usually avoided. But you have to, if you have to navigate back in the DOM, then you don't have any option. You have to use the XPath. Which version of Eclipse am I using? I think I'm using Galileo release. Maven is not very different, Pratik. It's just it introduces lots of life cycles. You have goals, you have tests, and other things. So it's not very different, I would say. Yeah, we will see usage of Ant as well. Yeah. I will be Rishi, I'll be posting. I'm recording this at the same time, so I'll be posting link of recording. So these are recorded on anymeeting.com itself, so you can watch the recording if you couldn't follow much. I remember you were saying about the voice and other things. Yeah, so you could see the recording. I'm not sure, there is no way to download these videos from Anymeeting, so I'm not sure how could that be done. I couldn't find any way for that. Yeah. Okay, so I'm done with today's session. I'm just trying to take some questions. First, yeah, I have uploaded first session as well. I'll do one thing. I'll send email to all the participants after this meeting. Number as in which number? Okay, someone else has also recorded. Good. Number of parallel tests, it actually boils down to your system capabilities. So I have seen that it is claimed you can run as many as 9 Firefox driver in parallel, but I have not tried more than 3 at any point of time. Yeah, so if you have problem in listening voice in the session recording, please refresh the URL. I know it appears because few of you told me that it does appear. You guys can listen at sometimes. Julia, don't worry about login. I noticed that you really don't have to log in, but if you're not able to hear voice once you open the recording, refresh the URL once again, and you should be able to hear after that. A few of you faced this problem, but a few of you were able to get through as well. Yeah, so Omkar says that he was able to listen in Firefox. Next meeting plan, I'll share. not very sure how when I can do this. Actually, if you guys see what we have done today is not much, and many of this part I just come back to Eclipse again. Say driver dot find element. It does not look in the. It doesn't look good in the test. Test should be very neat and clean. So the next session we will see how we can write neat and clean test using the page object and other test design techniques. So do attend the next session. I don't think that's possible, Gyanendra, because any meeting will keep the different recording URLs for everything. I'll do one thing. I'll create one page wherein I'll keep posting these links of recording. Yeah, I think that should help. Yeah, yeah, that's all. Any other question? Web element. Web element. Manoj, can you elaborate your question? What is your question about web element? Okay, so see, if you guys face any issue with respect to the method, there is Selenium API available. Yeah, if you see the selenium.googlecode.com/svn/trunk /doc API Java index.html, you will see all these APIs here. For example, I have class Firefox driver opened here, and if you see, it says that Firefox driver actually extends lots of interfaces, one of them being the web driver here itself. Have a look here. Yeah. So have a look at this API documentation, it may as well help. Julia, don't worry, download it, and what would happen at most? You might not be able to use it. If you guys face any problem with usage of anything what I explained in the session today, do come back to me and I'll try to answer as soon as possible. Yeah, definitely. Next session is going to be on page object and the design techniques as to how we can write, better maintainable test. Okay. Yeah, we will have a look at, if you see the framework today, what we saw, TestNG is itself a framework, and Selenium is also said as a framework. Framework, the word has become rather a misnomer today. Why web element? Selenium RC we will see after WebDriver. So those who have not worked with Selenium at all, I will suggest to use Selenium WebDriver. Do not use Selenium RC because it will be deprecated at some point. I explained the reasons why Selenium 1 is not preferred, given that it injects JavaScript in the application, while Selenium 2 is preferred. So begin with Selenium 2 if you are new, don't worry about the Selenium 1. Okay. Okay, yeah, so I think that's all. Yes, guys, it's pretty late. It's almost 1.5 hours. Okay. Okay, I'll post the video link. I'll mail it to all of you and as well as the location as well. Bye bye, guys. Have a good night. Yeah, and I'll share the script as well. Okay, see ya.